Welcome to the Nevis Newscast for Friday, December 7th, 2018. I'm Fredicia Liebert. Working together to make sure no country is left behind is the theme for today's celebration of International Civil Aviation Day 2018. Federal Minister of Aviation, the Honorable Mark Brantley, outlined the purpose of the day.
The purpose of International Civil Aviation Day is to help to generate and reinforce worldwide awareness of the importance of international civil aviation to the social and economic development of states, and of the unique role of ICAO in helping states to cooperate and realize a truly global rapid transit network at the service of all mankind.
The Civil Aviation Division is charged with the responsibility for oversight as required by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, advising and coordinating with all agencies on matters in relation to aviation as the regulatory body for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, along with the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, ECCAA, based in Antigua.
In ensuring that the government meets its obligations internationally, regionally, and locally, the department has oversight for both the Vance Amory and Robert L. Bratcher International Airports. It conducts inspections, monitoring, testing, surveys, investigation, audits, training, certifications, risk assessments, the coordinating of emergency exercises, and issuing of landing permits. Indeed, our department has been so well recognized that members of that department were recently asked by the Commonwealth of Dominica to come to Dominica to train their staff in Dominica. Every year, the state is assessed by TSA, the United States Transportation Security Administration. This is done to see whether or not St. Kitts and Nevis is meeting the ICAO standards and recommended practices as required.
The Aviation Minister invited the public to support all the stakeholders and staff in aviation.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrate World Aviation Day. Let us recognize and support all of us and all of the stakeholders and staff that work within this industry for their hard work and dedication in ensuring that as a nation, we meet and exceed our obligations and protect our traveling public from any threat or acts of unlawful interference.
International Aviation Day is celebrated annually on December 7th. The National Unity Administration has made the decision to give an extra month's salary, popularly known as double salary, in December to all civil servants. The announcement was made on Thursday, December 6th, during a national address on ZIZ television by Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris. Prime Minister Harris said the Cabinet of Ministers has considered and determined, based on the excellent assessment of the fiscal health, that government employees will receive for the third year in a row a double salary on December 14th. The double salary payment will apply to all employees of the Nevis Island Administration (NIA), employees of the federal government, including the government auxiliary employees or non-establishment workers, persons on STEP, pensioners, faculty of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College (CFBC). Prime Minister Harris added the statutory corporations such as St. Kitts Electricity Company Limited (SCELEC), St. Christopher Air and Seaports Authority (SCASPA), National Housing Corporation (NHC), the Tourism Authority have also been encouraged to make payments to their employees. In his address, the Prime Minister indicated that the economic and fiscal house of the country is at its all-time best, and that the prospects for the economy in 2019 and the medium term are for continued positive above-average economic growth. This will be the fourth year in a row under this administration that the country would have recorded positive growth. The healthy fiscal position of the government indicates that St. Kitts and Nevis has achieved the best ever debt-to-GDP ratio over the past 25 years, Prime Minister Harris added. Premier the Honorable Mark Brantley is advising employees of Four Seasons Resort Nevis to use the advance notice of the hotel's closure wisely. The Premier's admonition comes on the heels of his recent meetings with the management of the Four Seasons Resort Nevis.
Just a few years ago, the Four Seasons Resort Nevis was purchased after some years in financial limbo. It was agreed by all that the property, after some nearly 3 decades, was in dire need of refurbishment. The new owners committed to over $40 million in upgrades to the property. These included refurbishing all rooms, developing new parking, new reception area, new entrance, new restaurants, new pool, extension to the pier, beach protection work, and several other significant back-of-house improvements. This government negotiated in good faith with the new owners that the continued employment of the workers was paramount and that the resort must remain operational during the renovation. This was agreed to, and the hotel remained open even as the first phase of the massive construction works were undertaken in 2018. Mr. President, we now know that despite the government's and Four Seasons' best intentions, this approach has not worked. I am advised that the guests who stayed at the hotel during this past year, whilst construction has been ongoing, have complained bitterly and have written many negative reviews on the hotel. This has caused considerable reputational damage to the hotel and to the island of Nevis and our luxury brand.
According to Premier Brantley, as construction planned for 2019 involves even greater work in terms of demolition and reconstruction in the central areas of the hotel, Four Seasons owners have taken the decision to close the resort from June to September with plans to reopen in October 2019.
I'm advised, Mr. President, that the closure will impact just over 400 of the 730 workers at the hotel, and these will therefore be out of work for 4 months. We have been advised that the hotel for the period from December 2018 to May 2019 will be enjoying the highest occupancy and the highest room rates in its history. That means that workers will see considerable earnings over the next several months as they benefit from significant service charge. I'm asking workers to save their money and to ensure that the windfall that they will get over this tourism season is not wasted, as they now know that come June 2019, there will be a closure for 4 months. I also urge them to work as many hours as they can to ensure that they maximize their earnings during this period of plenty.
Premier Brantley noted that his government is committed to ensuring that the negative impact of this 4-month closure is minimized and people are protected.
I am pleased to announce that we have held discussions with the Four Seasons that during the closure, they will pay to all affected workers 25% of their normal salaries for the period of the closure. This will be paid regardless of whether workers obtain temporary work elsewhere during that period. I go on record today to thank the Four Seasons owners for their generosity and commitment to their workers. We have also indicated that as many of these workers as possible should be absorbed by DCK, the main contractor undertaking the reconstruction work. Our Labor Department will be fully mobilized to ensure that this happens. We also encourage workers to seek and accept assignments at other Four Seasons properties during this period, as this will not only continue their employment but enhance their skills. My cabinet will shortly meet with the Chamber of Commerce to urge them to expand their employment offerings to affected workers during this period.
Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley. Still to come.
So as you see here in New River, we're growing our onion already. I could tell you that as of just before open, they would have onion already to sell to the general public.
The details after this break.
Hey girl, what's up? What brings you by? Girl, I got awesome news from Inland Revenue Department.
What awesome news is that? The only news that I get from the department is that they got to spend money. What the news be?
The Inland Revenue Department is waiving all interest on your outstanding property tax bills in excess of $100.
What? What are you saying? So weird. If my interest is $1,000, how much I got to pay?
All you're required to pay is the $100 and the outstanding tax due. If for some reason you are unable to pay your property tax in full this month, the department is also offering payment arrangement plans to make settlement easier. But remember, you have to come to the department between November 1st and December 31st to qualify.
Inland Revenue doing big things. I like it. This is a great way to encourage payment and still allow the taxpayer to save some dollars.
So girl, look at it this way. You can use your extra $900 on the VAT reduction day in December. So be a responsible tax citizen and get your property taxes paid in full.
Welcome back. The Nevis Island Administration's $269.95 million tax-free budget for 2019 was passed today, Friday, December 7th, in the Nevis Island Assembly. Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Mark Brantley, who tabled the budget on Wednesday, December 5th, outlined the major allocations in expenditure.
The Office of the Premier has been allocated funding in the amount of $9.65 million, representing a 3.56% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for funding the Office of the Integrity in Public Life Commission, along with the completion of works at the Newcastle Police Station. The Ministry of Finance has been allocated funding in the amount of $92.89 million, representing 34.41% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for debt servicing obligations, along with funding to execute completion works on the Treasury Building reconstruction project and the water taxi pier at Wally.
The largest allocations will go to the Ministry of Communications and Works and the Ministry of Health.
The Ministry of Communication and Works has been allocated funding in the amount of $51.44 million, representing 19.06% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for our infrastructure development program, including road works for Brownhill, Bath Village, and Craddock Road, along with the resurfacing of the Island Main Road from Newcastle to Cotton Ground, and the drilling of 3 additional new water wells. The Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs has been allocated funding in the amount of $37.27 million, representing 13.81% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for providing improvements in the quality and delivery of health care, along with construction work under the Alexandra Hospital Expansion Program.
Also to receive major allocations are the Ministry of Education, Library Services and Information Technology, the Ministry of Social Development, Youth and Sports, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands, Cooperative, Housing and Disaster Management.
The Ministry of Education, Library Services and Information Technology has been allocated funding in the amount of $34.98 million, representing 12.96% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for the delivery of quality education to our people, executing work under the CDB TVET Enhancement Program, acquisition of lands for the construction of a tertiary education facility, and for the development of our information and communication technology needs, including the computerization of all of our schools. The Ministry of Social Development, Youth and Sports has been allocated funding in the amount of $21.89 million, representing 8.11% of the total budget. Included in the amount are funds allocated for the delivery of our social development agenda and improvements to our sporting facilities. The Ministry of Agriculture, Lands, Housing, Cooperatives and Disaster Management has been allocated funding in the amount of $10.57 million, representing 4% of the total budget. Included in this amount are funds allocated for enhancing our agricultural sector as we seek to achieve food sustainability and security.
According to Premier Brantley, resources projected to finance the 2019 expenditure program are current revenue, projected revenues from CBI passport processing fees, CDB loans and other concessionary loans, as well as grant funding from the Sugar Industry Diversification Fund, SIDF, the Hurricane Relief Fund, and the Sustainable Growth Fund, and other grant funding. The Ministry of Agriculture is gearing up for the 25th anniversary of Agriculture Open Day, slated for March 2019. Chief Extension Officer Walcott James spoke about the progress they have been making at the New River Farms and told the general public what to expect on Open Day.
The onion production is one of our key produce for the open day for every year. People really looking for our local onion because it's a staple that the quality, the prices that we provide for people, and also the time. So as you see here in New River, we growing our onion already. I could tell you that as of just before open, they will have onion already to sell to the general public. We have a traditional onion. We have the quantities that people every year looking for. The department decided to undertake again the yam production. So here also we have about yam production that also will be available for the open day. And not only that, we're trying to increase the yam production that have been lacking for the last few years. So we will have material to sell, and also we have planting material so that the farmer will have access to fresh and local yam planting material starting 2019.
James also spoke about their efforts in the beet and sweet potato production at the farm.
So we will be doing beet production also, and people will be able to buy local beet. We have some farmers with us that every year they come, they have the local production of beet, but it's not enough. One of the most important commodities that last year we were kind of short, and next year we will not be short, is the sweet potato production. The sweet potato is a staple that everybody looking for open day and also for the Easter. So I could tell you, Mr. Rohan, that we work in the sweet potato. We started to establish our sweet potato, and they're growing at our own satisfaction. But also, not only we growing our sweet potato, but also encouraging our farmers to be part of the process. So I could tell you that right here in New River, we have a couple of farmers that we provide them to make it more easy for them. We're providing planting material, and those farmers also growing the sweet potato in preparation for open day.
Walcott James, Chief Extension Officer in the Department of Agriculture. That's how we end this edition of the Nevis Newscast. On behalf of all of us here at the Department of Information, I'm Fredicia Liburd. Thank you for viewing. Have a great weekend.